Yo, what up, guys?
What's good? What's good?
Podcast number 9. We're moving along here nicely.
Nice.
I was just telling the guys, I figured we might as well just start the podcast. But did you know at like 10 o'clock? I don't know if it's PM or PST or EST, but the 4-hour candle switches or something like that at 10 a.m. And all because I've been watching all these like futures trading and like all these influencers and how they they like count it down like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and they'll like either short or long. They'll set their trade right at that moment of the 4-hour candle, and so that's how they get. Yeah, on crypto, that's how those guys do those big futures trading. Like you see them on Instagram or whatever, where they like, all right, here we go, and then they're in, and then it goes do, 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 and then they either go, all right, we're waiting for it to hit my mark, and then boom, it hits it, and fucking skyrockets, and they make 10K.
I mean, there's more to it. You have to understand what direction it's
going. No.
Well,
that's the thing. You got to read the chart and understand what formation the chart's creating, and then you can base your long or short on the formation. And then
you should start a YouTube channel that's all about getting absolutely wrecked in crypto. Because everyone shows like their best trades. They're like, yeah, we're going up. Oh my god, I just made 50,000. We should just make it where it's like, I just lost my house.
I saw one guy lose 70K. Nasty. It was crazy too. He was like up for like a hot second, and then it like just like dipped really fast, and he was like up like a couple G's or like 1.5K, and then like it just dipped and he was down 3 and he thought it was going to recover, and then it was like 10, 20, 30, 50, 60, 70. He's like, oh shit.
He didn't have a stop loss?
He lost like 70 G's.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, hectic.
That's so gnarly. Yeah. He must have had a lot of money to lose.
Hopefully.
And the video was like him and his buddy, and they were just like they just like couldn't even.
Oh, I saw that video. I saw that.
Tough conversation to have with your wife when you're like, look, we're gonna have to downsize our house.
I'm pretty sure those guys weren't married.
I saw another one where some guy was playing blackjack or poker, and he thought he bet $100 and he bet $10,000 by accident. And his buddy walks in, he's like, you got 10 G's on this hand? And he was like, no, 100. Oh my god. It's just like, and then he just loses like right then.
Dude, did you watch the newest Tintin video where he is on fire right now, bro. He just like his last hand, he did a 60K bet and won by like the I think he had 18 or 19 and the dealer had like 17 or something, and he just freaking racked it.
It's tough. Well, today is a great day in the crypto markets if you're a buyer and got some cash in hand. It's always really funny the emotions that are just aligned with just playing with money at this level. Just you wake up in the morning and you just see just blood red all through your charts.
Dude, it wasn't even blood red in the morning. I looked at it and I was like, oh, everything's survived. And then next thing you know, at 10 a.m., it was friggin' dirty.
Yeah, well.
Like it literally is just like that.
Well, but yeah, no, today's a dirty day. But it's a great day. I actually just one of my friends, she's like been wanting to like buy. She's just sitting on the sidelines. I think it was a pretty, newbie, you don't want to put anybody in some just volatile assets. So I told her, what do you think about this? I said 30% Bitcoin, 30% Ethereum, 20% Solana, 10% AVAX, and 10% Brett.
I don't know about AVAX, dude.
Yeah, I don't know about AVAX either. I'm pretty unimpressed with AVAX.
I would say 10%.
Did you hear what AVAX just did? They just put like 42 million license plates on the blockchain. Like they just got California DMV to just basically take all the cars and put it on their blockchain.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely bullish. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of the AVAX blockchain. I just not really impressed with how the asset's been moving for the last almost 8 months now. I mean, it absolutely ripped up to like to the 60s, and then it just cratered all the way back down to the 20s, and it hasn't been able to get out of the 20s for the last.
What's one utility coin besides Ethereum and Solana that is doing anything? I mean, literally every utility coin or infrastructure coin is trading sideways for months. Well,
It depends on what you're. Yeah, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about a layer one, you're right. AVAX is a solid.
Talking about anything besides a meme coin.
Oh, I mean, there's other ones, Arbitrum, Aerodrome Finance, like those are. I mean, Aerodrome just ripped from.
Uniswap could be a good one.
Which one?
Uniswap or Chainlink.
Uniswap's low. Chainlink's super low right now. That's a really, really good one.
What was that other one I was just thinking about? That I just had a really good one on the. You could do like a Kosh or something,
Yeah,
sure.
I don't know.
I mean, I think AVAX is going to be great with RWAs. I mean, look, it's a 10% of your bag of your.
And she's not gonna put anything into meme coins or anything like that.
I mean, I put her into Brett at this point, like 11 cents. It's a pretty good entry point for.
Yeah, it's a good entry point. I mean, I would put 20% of my bag on meme coins right now, especially the blue chip ones, right now. I mean, you kind of know where they are. I mean, I just noticed WIF is down 50%. WIF just went to 2.8, 2.9 billion last week. I just looked at it's at 1.8 right now. That's insane. Wow. That's nuts. And then
I feel like a lot of people, what I've realized is what happens to a lot of projects is these projects cook, like go fucking nuts. And then when they get up, a lot of people, when a new one pops up, they pull their liquidity out of those projects and put them in the new one. Like this Nero one that just went to 200 mil. Yeah. Everybody I feel like ripped out of all these other, like that's why Moomoo's down a lot, and Jinan's boosting right now because people who made shit tons of money on these other memes that like went huge. If you bought, like if you had put 10 G's down at 0.6 and you sold at, what it just went to all time high. I mean, dude, you made fucking like $500,000, And so these guys are taking their profits, and then they got to put it into another asset. And when they see one that's cooking, they go throw it over there. So it's like, that's why all these big projects, they go fucking nuts up, and then they come crashing. Then they not crash, but they start coming down a little bit. These other guys, they go put the whales go put their money in these next ones. Those go up, then they take it and then they put it back in, and they are always putting it back into the projects that they believe in, but they never hold their whole position for like, the whole cycle. Like, and that's what I'm learning, and I'm bad at it. We're all bad at it, and we're all learning. But like, even with Moomoo, I got in at, my DCA where I was at the end was at, 1. And dude, when it was up 10x, dude, I fucking sold.
Yeah.
It would have been foolish of me not to. Unfortunately, I sold even when I was up 6x, but still 6x on a fucking, $1,000 investment. Dude, that ain't lunch money, dude. That's like enough money to chill you out for a little bit, And if you're going to invest it back in, you can turn that into 50 racks if you go put $6,000 back into something.
One swing trade. One swing trade on one dip.
Or you just dump 2x. And that's what I think we're learning as, I feel like we've only been trading for like a year, even though we've been in crypto since 2017, we've never been like really good at trading until just now when we're like learning how to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like,
I took a really long break. I mean, I had a different investing strategy that was more of a long strategy rather than a swing trade strategy. And I've only really been doing swing trading. I mean, I've done swing trading in the past, don't get me wrong. But recently, every day swing trading for the last year. Yeah. And really like honing in over the last like couple months now that the market's starting to heat up, because it was just so annoying to swing trade when the market was like in such a bearish pattern.
Yeah. And if you didn't have like a good chunk. You know, if you weren't swing trading with 5 to 10 G's, like you only
Minimum.
make a couple $100, you know, a month, you know?
Yeah, you're up 20% on, 10 G's. I mean, it's $2,000. It's like, it's a lot of work for $2,000. And there's a lot of, time you're spent, looking at your phone and, all that. So once you get a bag, once you get 20, 30K minimum and you're flipping that around, 10% gain, that's a good day. And in crypto, you're making 10, 20% gain per asset per day.
Well, if you're making only 10, 20%, you're blowing it. I mean, some of these things are going up fucking 200% in a day.
Right.
You know?
Well, I was saying easy money. Like, if you want to get in and just jump into something and make 20%, do that. Like,
I'm watching some of these big projects and guys are throwing around 10, 15K, leave it in for a second. And then,
some of the reason that I say, like, you got to be selective. I mean, some of this shit is risky. And like, if you're throwing 10 G's, you better be sure that thing's going up, not down, because it's that's
the thing is it's gonna go down. It's gonna go down. If you throw 10K into anything, be prepared for it to go down 10, 20, 30%. But if you got cojones, dude, you can fucking hold through. Like there was a project that I got into. I only threw like I think 2 Solana at it. And actually I threw 3 Solana at it. It was that cat dog one. I don't know why I just like believed that this thing was gonna go. And dude, I was down like 60% on that thing. And that
thing got wrecked.
I
was sketched. So I told you guys about that. It was at like 14 mil. Actually, Josh and I looked at it first. It was at 14 mil. Next day, it's at like 20, 24 mil. I think you guys got in at 24 million.
Yeah.
And then it immediately went down to like 8.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. I was just like, oh my God. We were just like, and then you have to go double check do your own research. Like we did our own research on it and I felt confident about it. And the guy who was calling it was an absolute killer. And then it dipped. And then you had to go back and like reread this guy's tweets and be like, what's going on? And he was like, I don't give a fuck that we're down, 70%. I'm doubling down. This is all FUD. Like, and you guys held. That was legit. I actually
doubled down on it, but then it went up and then I sold. And then
so what happened to you, Josh, is that, and I didn't know this. So you hit me up. You're like, this thing's up at like 40 mil. Should I take some profits? What I didn't know is that it had ripped to like 70 or 80 million earlier that day.
Yeah.
And then got sold down to 40. And then you sold it at 40. And that was like the new bottom.
Yeah.
So that sucked. I didn't know that the chart had.
Anyway, I mean, but the truth is, like, what I did do is I didn't go FOMO into it when it started going up. And this is the big mistake that I've made in the past, with a bunch of stuff, is you're like, oh, I missed my entry. I'm just going to go in. And you just jump into it. And then you get wrecked by, you're like getting in while everyone's getting back out. And so I just set a limit of what I was comfortable jumping back in at. And I just waited for the market to come to me instead of chasing the market.
And it took
I got a good entry point now.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing is being able to manage your FOMO. And I mean, dude, I've done it so many times, but dude, the truth is, and Jesse, you were the one that told me about this, is charting the charts. Every time I'm looking at something, I'm charting it at least on the 1 hour. If it's a newer one, then on the 5 minute, but like charting it just to like see what the levels are, see where the resistance is, see where these things are tapping multiple times, and you draw the line. You're like, okay, well, this is my entry, and you can set your buy or your sell, and it's gonna hit it. That's the thing that I'm learning about all this shit, is that it has to test the levels. Like on culture, I drew a line yesterday at the low, and when I got home, a couple hours ago, I looked at it, and dude, it literally tapped my line and bounced back off. And that's why I just doubled down just now. And Josh, if you looked at it, it's up, almost at break even. Now it's at 22 or something. So it's like, if you just know where it's going to go. That's how these friggin' traders are killing it. They just look at their fucking charts, draw their lines, draw their fucking triangles and their fucking slants and their ups. And you just look, the trend is your friend. And if you can understand where the trend line is, it's going to fucking hit it. And if it breaks below it, then it's going to hit the next one. but then it's gonna bounce off that and it's gonna go fucking up.
Also,
Yeah.
like also one of the easiest trades is on a breakout, like a break of the trend line, and it's always going to come back and tap the trend line every single time. It's like a
Maybe pull up some charts because people maybe don't know what the hell we're talking about here. Do you have any
I got one right here.
quick references? But yeah, I doubled down. I threw 2 SOL at it that paid off just now.
Here, hold on one sec.
What happens if I do a share screen? Oh, here, I can pull this up real quick. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Is it on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Okay. So check it. Like, dude, there's the line. This is culture, like that we were just talking about. There's the line. It literally bounced off it. Like, perfect. You can't even draw that shit.
Yeah.
Like, literally, I can't even believe it. It literally bounced off 11, 6, and now it's up. I mean, if you had set your buy on your trend line or your resistance,
what did we buy it at?
I think just now?
Yeah.
I think it was like 18 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know. I missed it. And the reason why, and the reason I didn't, and what I do is I just draw the line. Like I find where it had hit like multiple times. Boom. All these hit it. These ones. Oh, shnikes. And then, yeah, boom.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do I have any other ones? Oh, here's that Nero one. Look at the trend. This thing's just been cooking up. Look, it drew the line. It hit right there.
You can't see it. We only see culture.
Oh, here. Can you see this?
Yeah.
There, look, it like it literally bounced right off it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that one's been just absolutely ripping. Crazy. Right. That's the tough thing is like that FOMO. You're just watching these things run. You're just like, I want to be in it. And then you drive by it and it just comes straight down.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that I think that I'm also learning. It's like, and actually one of those crypto calls guys, Wolf, he even said it best. Like he was out of town for, a week or something. He hasn't really been posting. But what he said is you pick the guys that are like the 3 or 4 calls guys that you fucking trust.
Yeah.
That aren't going to steer you wrong. And when they post something, you ape into it, whether it's for a half a Solana, 1 Solana. And then if they say this is a conviction play and I'm aping a huge bag, you probably should do the same. Like, these guys are better traders than me, you, pretty much 90% of the people out there. Yeah. They're doing the research. They're doing the charting. They're already fucking ballers.
Yeah.
They're ballers for a reason because they're doing fucking these big trades and throwing big bags around.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big difference is, we're throwing, 5, 10 grand around. These guys are throwing 50 grand around, it's just a little.
But true. But dude, you got to start somewhere, you got to get that first. When you throw in $1,000 and you get 1,000x, there you go. You're starting, and that's how you have to get started somewhere. If you and you got to be willing to lose it. That's what's scary is putting your money out there. It's like going to the fucking roulette table, except you're going to the roulette table with the people who are the best of the best.
Yeah. I think it's all about managing. It's all about managing your emotions too. That's the key is that there's so much like FOMO and then there's so much fear and, you can, and I think, Jesse always says like, go in with a plan, got to go in with a plan. And I even fucked up on my Brett trade because I came in at 11. It went all the way up to 13.5. And then I thought it was going to, my plan was to get up to 15 because I thought that was the level, but it never made it there. And it came back to 11. And I was just like, fuck, it actually came down below my entry point. I was like, damn it.
Could have made $1,500 going a quick trade.
It was stupid. I got 10 racks on that thing too. So that would have been like
with size.
Yeah.
So here's a cool little oops, hold on. Let me
I just did the chart for culture and it literally bounced off my line.
Yeah. That's so cool. Here, so check this out. Here, I'll share this for people who wanna. get a little view. But this is kind of cool because if you know that this is going to happen like almost every single time, then you can trade it really well. So yeah, so you'll see like this chart right here. Share it, Jer. So this chart is cool because what you see here is a downward channel. So like, let's say that you had invested like somewhere up in this area, right? And all of a sudden it's going down. So when you're looking at the chart, if you don't draw these lines, you just see the price just going down. You're freaking out. But if you draw these lines and you see that it's bouncing in a descending channel, you can actually recognize that this is somewhat of a bullish pattern right here. It doesn't always mean that it's going to be a bullish pattern, but essentially what you can do is you can just draw the lines. You can see it's kind of hitting the lows and here are the highs. You have a descending channel, and you know that whenever it breaks out of that channel, it's going to rip, which, as you can see with this asset, that's exactly what happened. Once it broke the trend line right here with some momentum, it ripped all the way up, kind of hit this high level, previous range high, and then comes all the way back down and taps the trend line again. So what can happen is you either trade the breakout, but you got to get out of it. It can only be a quick trade because it's going to come back, or you can watch for the breakout and then wait for it to come back to the trend line. And you can set your buy literally right off of this trend line right here as an entry point. And then you're going to get a solid run to the upside right after. So that's just like, you can start to see these trends when you're looking at various different assets, looking for entry points, and you'll see that these shapes are existent like all over all kinds of asset charts. And it really helps once you start to see a lot of these patterns. It gives you a little bit more confidence. So when your bag is down, 20, 30, 40, 50 plus %, some people's bags today are down like 80%, but you can see these patterns and understand when the market can turn around,
Yeah. And also, setting your limits. You don't have to just sit there and watch it and hope for it to go down. If you draw the lines, you can literally, like you said, put your cursor over where that trend line is, set your buy right there, or even maybe a little bit up above it just to make sure you hit. And then when you look, at your bag, the next morning, hopefully it filled and you're up, 2x, 3x.
3x, yeah. Or just up 20, 30%. And that's the thing. Like, we've been talking about it a lot. Obviously you want to catch one of these projects to rip, 20, 30x. Of course, like the last 4 projects that we didn't put money into all did it, which is really depressing. Because yeah, if you put 2 Solana on something at 2 million, it goes to 200 million. I mean, you're absolutely over the moon. That's a huge opportunity, and it happens. It actually just happened 3 days ago with Nero. And of course we invested in the other 2 Neros, and then the third one, and you even called it, Jared. You said Nero's on ETH, and then like none of us put money into it. It went to 200 million from 2.5 million, which is crazy. Or even from 25 million to 200 is still, incredible. But
2 million to 200 million. I just can't.
In a lot of ways, it's still like hitting a little bit. It's still gambling. You don't know which one's going to go. And so, but what you will see is that generally speaking, these things are swinging 20, 30% up to like 200 to 300% pretty consistently. And if you take, and I was saying this to you guys, I was like, if you were to take like a way more conservative approach, and let's say you put in $5,000 into a project, or even $3,000, $2,000 into a project, it goes up 20% and you just cash out. Even if it continues ripping, you just made 20% return. I mean, some people don't make 20% return on their assets in an entire year. You just make 20% in an hour. take that as a compound and find your next project and throw that whole bag into the next project. 20%, take it out. If you were to do that a couple times a day for a month, I mean, you would have unbelievable gains.
Yeah.
And instead of sitting around waiting to hit a jackpot on every single project and continuously round tripping or taking losses on rug pulls.
Right.
So, and it's the truth is like, if you're sitting there, it goes up 20, 30, 50, and then just all of a sudden round trips and now you're down 20%. It's like super frustrating, you know?
You're telling me, bro.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I see 20, 30% gains all the time. And then like, but the problem is when you're up 20%, you don't want to sell because you're like, is this thing going to keep going?
Yeah. This is what Brett looks like right now. It's already like fully recovered. But you know, if you were buying down there,
everybody's calling this one called Wizzy.
I know. I just threw half a soul at it.
Really? I saw
what, just now?
Yeah, just to fuck around and find out.
Who called it? Moo?
Everyone.
Bossman called it, and
yeah, Bossman called it yesterday.
Yeah, he called it yesterday when it was at like 200 or something.
And is it down now?
No, it's up. Ripped.
Well, it came down. No, it's down right now. And then it went up and then it just came down.
Which one is it? Is it Wizard Cat or Wizzy?
Wizzy.
Yeah.
It's Wissy, I think.
W-I-Z-Z.
Z-Z-I-E. Wizzy. Dude, that's the thing that you got to be careful about, dude.
No, I went and copied the contract address. I don't fuck around anymore. I just always copy the contract address.
Yeah,
like when I bought Whiff and I bought fucking C-Whiff, and it's like, yeah, it's fucking gonna go up. That thing's worth like, I took a soul and turned it into 35 cents. And Whiff, if I put it in the real Whiff, it would have been, you know,
crazy
5x, 6x.
more. Yeah, that's insane. Yeah, that's happened. I mean, yeah, you can't, if you're messing around, you can't just type in the name of the project on.
Yeah, you got to take the contract address. So these, for the newbies on here, there's smart contracts, which is how these coins are all traded on these dexes, which are decentralized exchanges. And you want to get the contract address where the coins are so that you're making sure that you're buying the correct coin. Because what will happen is when there's these successful projects, people will make, you know, variants like whoever fucked me over. And so people will go and just search for Whiff, and they'll find Whiff. It'll have the same logo. It'll say the same name. It'll just be a different ticker, but you just don't see that thing when you're buying it on these dexes. And it'll have a different contract address. And so you'll buy some bullshit coin and they'll just basically rug pull you, steal all your money. So those are the fun parts of fraud that are embedded and embroiled in DeFi.
Yeah. Well, we just got back from the Nashville crypto conference and got to attend the Trump rally /
my first Trump rally. That's exciting.
And
how was that?
Pretty disappointing, honestly, because I think that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. really took his thunder with a well thought out plan and had a real agenda about how he would approach things with regards to crypto. And Trump's was like 10%, maybe 15% with the original thought. What's that?
I said he was just circle jerking on the stage.
Yeah.
Look, he's a performer. Like I watched him, and you know, he puts on a great show. You can see why he's really rallying young people. And I was even listening to the crowd because I was obviously in the crowd. Everyone's like, "Oh my God, he's so funny. He's just like, you know, ripping on him." Ha ha ha. Everyone's laughing, right? And he's like putting on a show, and he's being a ham on the stage and just talking shit, which is what he does and why he's able to rally people. But when you get into like the nuances of it, like I actually wonder if I would have been less disappointed if he went first and RFK went second, because you know, listening to RFK's strategy, he had like a real strategy. You know, he said the same things But he also talked about buying 550 Bitcoin so that we could have a dominance in Bitcoin, the same that we have a dominance in gold. And that makes a lot of sense. It's like, and moving everything, the 200,000 Bitcoins that the US government has seized over to the Treasury Department. That all makes a lot of sense, but Trump was just like, we're going to, we need so much electricity, more electricity, and we're going to go get coal plants. And it's just like, guys, just all over the place. And look, it's great. The good news is that it's kind of like when the cat's out of the bag, like the fact that two presidential candidates are talking about Bitcoin, you can't not talk about it. And, what is valuable about what Trump did is that he's bringing, one of his constituents is bringing to the House and a bill to pass for the U.S. government to buy 1 million Bitcoins out of the market, which is massive. That would be it'd be insane if that passed. But like, that's the momentum moving forward. So literally, regardless of who becomes president, like, that momentum has already begun, and it's already on people's radars in a different way. And, people like Elizabeth Warren, who've just, been like a huge crypto hater, they're all kind of, pumping the brakes. And, you're seeing the SEC, starting to squirm on some of these things they've been so firm on. And like, that's happening regardless of who's the president. And so that is the exciting part about what we saw. But on the Trump side of it, yeah, it was just kind of like, I felt, it's always feels nice to be jerked off, but like, that's what it felt like.
Yeah, it was a little anticlimactic, and he didn't show that he had that he'd spent any time really learning about crypto before he did his presentation, or his
he just winged it. That's what I mean, is he kind of just
like he winged it. Yeah.
Winged it, and he kind of like just wanted to, get some cheers and get people hyped on crypto, get your Bitcoin to the moon, as they call it. I was just like, ugh. It was actually funny. I had an Uber the other day, and the guy, he was like an older guy, like probably in his 70s, maybe even old. I mean, he was an old guy. He had a Trump hat on, and I was asking him about, I kind of was just like playing to, not that I like with picking any sides, but I was asking him questions on his stance on crypto. And he basically was like, I don't touch the crypto. I don't know anything about it. I'm not touching it. I'm like, oh, well, and I kind of gave him a little bit of my thoughts on it. And I was like, well, Trump says that he's big on crypto. And he's like, well, Trump's a businessman. Of course he is. He knows when a good business opportunity is in front of him, he's going to go for it. I'm like, well, then if Trump thinks it's a good business opportunity, don't you think that it would be a good business opportunity to be involved early before it really starts ripping? And he's like, I'm 70 something years old, probably should be paying attention. I'm like, you might want to pay attention if at least.
Look, Trump's talking to half the country, appealing to half the country. He's talking to the whole country. I mean,
right.
He's got half the country that, agrees.
He's talking to the whole world is what he's doing.
He is talking to the whole world for sure, but he's got half the country on his side. And I'm sure he's got a lot more fans like that around the world. But just the fact, as you said, Josh, like, just the fact that a presidential candidate, not even that it's Trump, that it's just a presidential candidate, let alone two of the three, are talking about crypto on the world stage, is a huge deal. And there's this concept that I think is really fascinating that Carl Icahn and some other famous traders do, where they'll go buy an asset, they'll load into an asset. Even Michael Saylor did this with Bitcoin, but Carl Icahn was like really well known for it, because he would load in or acquire a company or load in by 10, 20%, over a period of time of the company. Even Elon Musk did this with his Twitter takeover, right? So they'll load into an asset and then they go public on their platform or tweet it and they go, hey, I just bought this stock. I now own 20% of this company. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, Carl Icahn owns 20% of this company. He knows something that we don't know. He just put billions into it. So everyone retail piles in and the price goes up.
Yeah, it's what Rob Go did with the Mickey Mantle card.
Yeah, he did that, not just the Mantle card. He did that with the entire card industry. And that's what's interesting, right? Is actually it's a great example what Rob Go did with the card industry by him top blasting the market, right? And buying and paying the most that had ever been paid for a baseball card. All of a sudden, that becomes the new floor,
right,
for the price of these types of assets. And now you've seen even a Mickey Mantle card that sold for, I think, like 12 point something $million. He bought his for 5. And so and he's never going to sell his because now he just doubled the value. It's like more than double the value of his investment. So brilliant strategy. And if we look at America in particular, like the debt load that we have, we're going through, I think I read $54 billion a month in interest payments.
Do you take IOUs?
That is cash, sir. How do you dig yourself out of this problem? I mean, you're going up like $500 billion, or I think it's like 650 billion a year last year. So compound that, it's gonna be more this year, just with interest, even not including new spending. So it's like, how is America gonna dig themselves out of it? And so Trump said this thing that just sounded so dumb. I don't have the quote right in front of me, but he said it like 2 months ago. He's like, we're going to use Bitcoin to pay off the US debt. And my first reaction was like, what are you talking about? That's like so dumb. How are you going to do that? Like, Bitcoin's only worth 1.5 trillion and US debt's 35 trillion. So it's like, how is Bitcoin going to pay it off? But then it dawned on me that if you use the Carl Icahn strategy, where if the US government announces that it's going to buy, and I actually was thinking this before they announced this last week, but if the US government announces that it's going to buy millions of Bitcoin or go buy 10 or 15% of the world's supply of Bitcoin, or takes the Michael Saylor strategy where you just do it quietly and you don't tell anybody.
Well, they already have 200,000 Bitcoin, so they already got
that's a number, but not changing. You're not changing the world with that number, So it's like, but the more important thing is if you just are soaking up the sell side of Bitcoin for a period of time, and you're just a buyer, just a consistent buyer. I mean, we're only producing X number of Bitcoins, a year, a day, whatever. So it's like there's limited supply for sure. Then over a period of time, once you've staked that position, the entire world, other 160 something countries are like, well, US government's putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet, like we need to do it too. Then the market cap of Bitcoin could head up towards, I mean, even Trump said, he's like, Bitcoin's the 6th most valuable asset in the world, just overtook silver or just about to overtake silver, now, and that's at 1.5 trillion. Gold, 200 trillion. Mm-hmm. So if Bitcoin gets to 200 trillion, I mean, that's a 200x on where we are right now.
Yeah.
You're talking about, $2 million Bitcoins, right? And so if we were to go buy, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million Bitcoins and at 200x's, that's a real number. Like you actually could pay off the US debt with that kind of strategy. So it's like, I think that if we look at the world's problems through a different lens, and this is what just pisses me off about anybody who's closed-minded to crypto, is because it's like, you're not looking at it through the right lens. Like you're looking at it through this like old lens, or you're looking at it like it's something going to change the status quo to the negative. It's like, the current status quo is the negative that needs to be changed. Like we need innovation. Like we need bold ideas to change the status quo. The status quo is not going in the right direction. And I actually love what Michael Saylor said. He said this crazy thing. I don't know where I heard it, but I was watching an interview of his, and he said that he bought a house in Miami, and he bought it for like $40 or $50 million. He said that house, go back 50 years ago or something like that, was $100,000. And he says that in X number of years, let's say 20 years, 10, 20 years, that his house, where it is, this $50-60 million house that he has, is going to be worth $100 million. So what he says is, that's cool, but it's actually not cool, because what it means is that the US dollar has lost 99.9% of its value over a 100-year span. And so if that's the reality that we're facing, where US dollar has lost 99.99% of its value, then you need Bitcoin. I mean, you need something else that can anchor on a global basis monetary value. Because I mean, that has digital efficiency, because like gold, yeah, you can digitize gold, but and trade it like paper. But the problem with digitizing gold and trading it like paper is that you don't actually know if that paper is really backing the physical gold. And if you buy paper from me that says you own this much gold, unless that gold gets physically delivered to your location, how do you know that you really own that gold? Whereas like with Bitcoin, if someone sends you the Bitcoin, it's yours. You got it, you know?
And that house will only be worth 100 million if it doesn't get wiped off the planet from, raising water levels or freaking hurricanes.
Yeah. And by the way, it's only worth 100 million if someone pays you 100 million for it. Right? So.
One thing that Trump did say that I did like is, talking about the regulatory landscape and what he wanted to do about that, and that he wanted to bring in the Bitcoin OGs to go and like be the ones to set the regulation that are going to create the fairest way for Bitcoin to be regulated. The people who are actually knowledgeable about the asset and the market and can actually protect investors, as opposed to these fossils that are sitting and making decisions for the country when they don't even know how to use their iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of them have old ways of thinking, through finance. I mean,
we know how complicated this shit is. Like, imagine some of these people that are sitting in Congress trying to regulate. They don't even know how to fucking day trade, like, let alone use a Telegram bot to buy a meme coin that goes to the moon. Like, how are you going to regulate that when you don't even know what I just said? Like, that doesn't.
And who's got the fucking time, dude? This shit is so time consuming. Like, I got a family, and it's hard to be sitting at, the kitchen table with my fucking phone being like, sorry, babe, I got to make sure my meme coin doesn't fucking crash. It's like, bro, you better put your fucking phone away or you're going to be fucking sleeping outside. I'm like, oh, all right, it's down. And then right before bed, I look and I'm like, oh, fuck, I should have sold it. It's like, dude, how the fuck are you supposed to handle this shit when you got like other shit to do? If you're just a fucking degen, 21, 25-year-old fucking kid sitting in your, basement, on your computer all day, like, hey, dude, you're going to make millions. But if you ain't sitting there fucking watching it, you're probably going to lose a lot of money. That's things fucked up,
Yeah. That's why there's different strategy. I think it's like, pick your strategy, and like what I was saying to my friend, like those assets that I selected, you can have your thoughts about AVAX, but AVAX ain't going to nothing, that ain't going to zero. That's going to be, maybe she doesn't get 100x on it, but she's going to get 20% over a year on that with, no question, and I think, when you're in crypto long enough, you're like, 20%, I make that in a day with a single swing, but like some people don't even make 20% a year off of their shit. Like some people make like 3% and they're fired up on that in their savings account or their CD or their Roth IRA and compound interest. Like we're over here like, oh man, only made 20% on that thing. So I think
I'm psyched on 20%, dude.
Well, we are now, but we were always trying to go for those moonshots, and those are just so risky. And how many times have we been up 30, 40%. We think it's going to keep going. And then we're down 30, 40%. We're like,
and then you sell it because you're like, fuck.
then you take a loss and then it goes back up. And it's a real good trading strategy to fucking.
Yeah, sometimes I just think to myself, I'm like, God, you're the worst trader. Like, what are you doing here?
It's
Like,
well,
you're up fucking 100%, didn't sell. Now you're down 30 and you're thinking about selling and you're just like, it's like I just sometimes have these internal conversations like, bro, you need to get a fucking day job, dude. This is fucking ridiculous. Money fucking left and right. You're up, you're making tons of money, and then you fucking don't do anything about it. Yeah. And it's like, if you don't sell 100% of your bag, you didn't make any money. That's the fucking fact.
Yeah.
no.
It's like,
we went through 2 cycles doing this, where we just we made tons of money and didn't sell, and it just goes up and goes down, and you didn't make any money, So this cycle, I ain't fucking around. But my point that I was making is that different assets can have different strategies. And so like my Bitcoin and my Ethereum and my Solana strategy is, well, actually, no, my Bitcoin and Ethereum strategy is different than all my other crypto strategies. Like I'm long Bitcoin, I'm long Ethereum. I don't care if that goes up and down. I know it's going to go up over time. My Solana strategy is to go in and out of meme coins so I can get more Solana. And the goal is always to have more Solana, not more meme coins. These other assets, the goal, some of them, I'm long on them. Like I think XRP is about to end its lawsuit. That thing's going to boost eventually. It was funny. Somebody posted a meme. They're like, if you bought, I think Dave sent it to me. He's like, if you bought XRP in 2018 and used for $10,000 today, you would have $10,000.
Yeah, it's the best stable coin in the game, dude.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's gone up and down, but like it's basically the same price forever. But that lawsuit is about to end. So like if you can just read the tea leaves on that.
They're saying that it could take fucking 6 months to a year to end.
I mean, maybe, but
had an opportunity and they fucking said, nah, we're not fucking having this meeting today.
Yeah. No, it's interesting for sure.
I threw a couple $100 at XRP. I actually, like an idiot, did it when it was like right before, right there, like the news of it was a sell the news type thing. Yeah. I bought it. I mean, I think I just broke even on it since it had a nice little. But
it's gonna do its thing. But like I said, there's different strategies, and so having assets that you're willing to be short on, assets that you're willing to be medium range, and really the only thing you should be long on is Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe Solana. Like in my opinion, people might have different opinions on that, but I think those are the only 3 assets that by Thanksgiving of next year, those are ones you should still be holding. And
I don't know though. Like, look, dude, here's the deal. The projects that have been around for like a couple months, they're all going to go, every project's going to have its day. And I believe that like, if a project can withstand the volatility of like a 3-month chart, like look, perfect example is Mumu. Okay. If you're like our buddy who got into Mumu at, 503. Okay. It had 5 zeros, 0.00003. Okay. That's where he bought it. And then it went to 0.00004. I mean, dude, that's like fucking 80%, almost 100% fucking down. What he did is he just kept buying it because he believed in it all the way down. And he brought his DCA from where fucking all-time high down to like kind of lower, right under the mids, And he invested $7,000. I mean, that ain't no chump change. And he did it over 3 months long. Now his 7K is fucking worth 60K. And so I feel like every project is eventually going to have its day. If it's like a real project, like a Pop Cat or a Whiff or a fucking Bread or, Wolf. I mean, a Wolf will have its day. Yeah. It's been the fucking, the hardest one that we've had to take is Wolf because we thought it was going to go fucking continue up, but it's just, we bought it and it's just been going down. But dude, if you're accumulating Wolf as it goes down to the all-time lows, when it has its day, whether it goes up to 200, 300, $500,000, $500 million, $1 billion, $2 billion, like, dude, you're gonna have, crazy gains. And I feel like every project will go up, it's got to come down, and it's got to go back up. And if you just draw your lines, your little squigglies on the charts, and you find those little places that they're gonna hit, you can make good money. But if you just throw it into something that's been around for a long enough time, especially in like the meme world, it will have its day, I believe.
Yeah, but we all know that crypto works in cycles. Like we're in a bullish cycle right now. The bull market, in my opinion, hasn't even started yet. Like that, generally speaking, or historically speaking, the bull run begins around like October, November of this year. And so like that would be the beginning of the bull market. But by October, November of next year, we're going to be entering a bearish cycle. Now, maybe it'll go down and it can come back up, or maybe this whole cycle theory ends and I'm full of shit. But just looking historically, by next year, you're going to see a lot of people that made a lot of money, hopefully us as well. And you're going to go and see the retail people who now consider themselves experts. And you're going to get your Uber driver pitching you on their newest meme coin they bought. And that's about the time that you need to consolidate into assets that can withstand the bear market. Because if you had Bitcoin at the all-time high in the last season, it was $59,000, and you just did nothing and you just went and took a vacation, didn't look at your bag for 2 years, you're back to that point. And that will happen. The new all-time low, in my opinion, will be $60,000. That'll be the bottom of the market in this next cycle. And who knows where that next all-time high will be. But like that's generally speaking how this market has worked historically, and I anticipate will be the same moving forward.
And that is also given that there aren't any like forces beyond our control, like disasters or wars or
I don't know. I mean, I think even wars might even make it go up. Like it's crazy shit that happens in the world. Like if you remember when Trump got COVID last season, that was the catalyst that made Ethereum go parabolic, So it's these catastrophes or these things.
It went down and then it went parabolic. It did
a fake out.
It did a fake out, but it went absolutely parabolic. So it's these things, like you're even looking at Russia wanting to, make crypto legal. Like that just came out. Like that's a huge thing where, now since the U.S. government has kicked Russia out of the SWIFT, and they've threatened that if China goes and attacks Taiwan, that they're going to put sanctions on China. And, China might be like, all right, well, fuck you. I'm not going to be I don't even need it anymore. We're going to just use crypto, and that could start a war, and that's going to be a whole thing. And that could actually be a catalyst that goes and shoots crypto to the moon.
Wasn't there sanctions on China when Trump was president?
Well, there's different levels of sanctions. Just like taking, a diplomat's bank account away, and and then there's like removing their SWIFT codes from the monetary system. But the problem with, some of these strategies is that while it was viewed as negative to choke off these major countries' access to transacting US dollars, it also just ends up isolating America. We're going to be, just us and a small number of allies while, using US dollars while everyone else moves over into the BRIC system. And all of a sudden you've created, a dynamic where the US is losing its power by people not transacting in the currency. So it becomes extraordinarily isolationist to take those strategies abroad. And it just makes you question, like, what is the right move at the end of the day? Obviously diplomacy is going to always win. I mean, if everyone gets pissed off at the other person and launches bombs and isolates, their country more and more, you end up like North Korea. So when, that's not good. And who knows that the diplomacy side of this, ultimately and hopefully prevails, and it takes good leadership to do it. And different strategies, some people like the strongman strategy of Trump. Some people would like a better diplomacy strategy to avoid kind of some of these, big stick warmongering and threats of attack, ground invasions and missile attacks. It's just like really insane. So, but at the end of the day, people are going to transact, commerce is going to continue, and digital currency. I mean, look, the thing that trips me out about people poo-pooing digital currency is like, how do you think you're transacting right now? What do you think a wire transfer is? You think they're actually putting your, US dollars in an envelope and flying it through the air? Like, no, it's a digital.
Or even your debit card. Where does the money come out of? Your freaking bank account.
You don't even, the money, it's not like the money moves. There's no money it moves. It's just a digital ledger. It's a ledger. Like the when you charge your credit card, it's literally a loan between you and your credit card company. It's just a transaction on a ledger. What do you think it is when you send Bitcoin from point A to point B? It's just a transaction on a ledger. The only difference between when you send send Bitcoin from point A to point B is it actually moves. You can't send Bitcoin on credit. That's not like a thing. And so when you're spending money on your credit card, you're literally spending money that you don't have physically. You could have it in another bank account. You're obviously, liable to pay it, and maybe you're rich and it's not a big deal to pay that credit card bill, but like you're not physically spending your money when you're spending a credit card money. So Bitcoin is incredibly powerful, and cryptocurrency in general is incredibly powerful because you are only spending currency that you physically have. You're transacting digital tokens or coins that you have in your physical custody and spending them. And we're seeing, a lot of crypto projects that are getting credit cards that back them. I mean, even Wolf got a credit card backing it. It's like kind of this easy thing. It's like, I mean, you got to be an idiot to go buy a cup of coffee with Wolf tokens, but you can do it, and that's pretty cool. And obviously with where Packet is heading, the big idea that we just announced this week is the revolution. And I'm like working on the website right now and writing about it. And I'm just like, fuck, this is a straight up revolution. This idea that you can download an app, install an app onto your computer, your phone, and your laptop, and get paid for providing resources to the Packet network. And then you can use those resources to buy content, like that's the whole story we've been trying to tell for the last half decade. And obviously it's incredibly powerful because like at the end of the day, what are we all trying to do? Everyone's trying to get paid, and if you can make passive income, I mean, what better kind of income is there? You want to go work in a, full-time job, or you want to make money while you sleep? I think most people would opt for, making money while they sleep. So the whole idea with the Packet network is how to be able to monetize people, internet resources, turn that into cash. And if people are getting paid for providing some resource that is relatively passive, then you have a higher propensity to use that money for things that you need, or things that you don't need, right? Because there's a barrier to entry. Like if I try and sell you a movie and you already have a Netflix subscription, you might be like, I don't really need to buy a movie right now because I got 10,000 movies on Netflix. Like, why do I got to pay you $10 for this movie when I'm paying $16 a month or $22 a month for Netflix? But if you made, $16 that week or that month, just doing some passive thing, it's just sitting in your account as passive income, and someone asks you to pay $16, you might be like, yeah, whatever, that sounds cool, try it out, because it's like free money. And that's the power of digital currency. Like,
well, and I also think that like what's going to change the game is like with Packet is, your TV is on and it's, earning packet. And then when you want to buy something, you can just buy that. Like, for example, like my son's watching the Ghostbusters movies. Well, Netflix just has the newest Ghostbusters movie. There's three other Ghostbusters, or there's 4 other Ghostbuster movies. He doesn't want to start Ghostbusters series on the newest one. He wants to start from the very first one in 1985 or whenever that first one came out. So what do? You go onto Amazon or Prime, and it's $3.99.
Or iTunes, yeah.
Well, yeah, or Apple or whatever. I usually just do it on, on Prime, $3.99. Watches that one. Next one, $3.99. Next one, $3.99. The next thing you know, you just spent $20. If my TV was earning me $20, I could have just paid for it.
Yeah.
But now it's coming out of my pocket. So that's like the revolution, is making it so that people can just have their TV running that starts earning them, currency, and then they can pay for their content. Whether and the next level will be if they can pay for Amazon or Netflix or whatever through the TV that's already freaking on. Just by
That's what I think is the revolution. I truly think that will be the revolution and actually Samsung, and everyone like poo-pooed it again. It was like not Netflix, NFTs, where Samsung was like, hey, we're going to have an NFT, I don't know, library or whatever. You're going to be able to buy NFTs, have NFTs on your TV. And it was just a weird announcement. It was like at the end of the bull market. And I'm sure it never happened. But like, that wasn't the cool thing. The cool thing was the idea that you can have a wallet on your Samsung TV.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the revolution right there. Because like, to your point, Jer, if you have a wallet, okay, now we got a wallet. So now we can do all these different things to earn money into that wallet, whether you're straight up crypto trading on your TV or it's some DePIN, decentralized infrastructure project that's paying you for providing resources to the network, that's earning you currency. And then if you have the ability to then take that currency and pay for things, pay your Netflix bill with it, pay your Amazon grocery bill with it, like whatever, right? But if that money can come in and subsidize, like that's just a game changer for people. And we're talking about how, the expenses of living have gone up dramatically. I actually saw a really interesting video the other day, and it was a guy who he said, like, I think it was 2020 or 2021. He had bought 45 items from Amazon, through Amazon, like grocery or whatever it is. And he like went into his account and saw that order, and it said like, hey, do you want to reorder? Or you just click and it will just order all 45 items that he bought. Mm-hmm. And he had paid $125 in 2021 for those 45 items. And when it reset and said, hey, we're reordering them, it was $450.
Wow.
The exact same 45 items, So it's like straight up inflation, 3x, right? His grocery bill went up 300% in the last 3 years. So if you can take even just any income, even if it's nominal, even if it's $10 a week, and it can just accumulate into that account, and then you can use that to pay for groceries or content or pay your Netflix bill, whatever. Like, every dollar counts in this marketplace, and I think people take for granted, be like, oh, I don't need $10. I don't need $15, but you're complaining when your grocery bill goes up by 20, 30, 50, 300%. So it's like, if you can have any types of passive income that can subsidize that increase in cost of living, why not? Even if it kicks the cost down by 10, 20%, that's 10, 20% less that's coming out of your actual paycheck,
And the thing that everyone poo-pooed about NFTs, and it's funny because everyone's like, yeah, what's a JPEG? Who cares about a JPEG? But what you don't realize is that every single one of those movies could be an NFT, and you can have fractionalized ownership of that NFT, and you can create a whole waterfall of how money gets distributed with that NFT. Because an NFT is just digital ownership of something. And so like, it's this weird concept of just being too early to the party. And people are like, oh, that's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. like even the internet, you look at these people back in the day, they're like, why do I need the email when I have a fax machine? It's like, yeah, well, now you look back and you're like, slap your forehead. You're like, of course. But at that time, it's a good question. It's like, why do I need that? I can already send messages across the world, pretty quickly. And so this NFT idea that just like everyone calls a scam, but that's the funny thing about this Avalanche thing. It's like every single one of those license plates are RWAs, or basically NFTs. It's like, now you have the ownership that used to take, I mean, how many times have you been to the DMV? Like the revolution of what Avalanche just did is like, most people that are watching this have been to the DMV. It's a fucking nightmare, and shit takes weeks to get done and like hours of sitting around. And now you can transfer ownership instantly on a blockchain. Like that's insane. Like to be able to identify your ownership on a blockchain, and that if you're going to go buy my car, I'm literally transferring that ownership into your wallet, and now you're the owner of that car.
Yeah,
that's a revolution.
That's a revolution, and where it needs to go. And obviously most governments are afraid for it to go there, but when that NFT is attached to your identity, right? It's attached to your ability to vote.
Yep.
So your citizenship is like defined by that, and creating honest elections, fair, honest, fast, auditable elections. Like these are things that, especially, the MAGA Republicans have been railing on for the last 4 years about dishonest elections. Like, okay, let's put it all on a blockchain, and let's do it. I mean, I think everyone's afraid of what happens when voting gets really easy because,
or really honest.
Yeah, really easy or really honest, but like that's where it needs to go, and that's where all the people talking shit about NFTs, like you're going to look back on this 10 years, whatever from now, and you're going to see your whole life is an NFT. And, we've already seen it happen with the Apple Wallet, right? It's like you're getting digital certificates for going to a concert or airplane tickets, show up in your Apple. You can add it to your Apple Wallet. Well, soon that Apple Wallet, and which has your credit cards in it, which has everyone's getting accustomed to Apple Pay. But yeah, soon you're going to be able to use your identity NFT to vote, get on, board an airplane to actually I just saw that they're getting ready to allow you to have your driver's license in your Apple Wallet.
Right. Yeah, I
You
did
don't
hear
need to have your driver's license, your physical driver's license anymore. You just have
it. And then the next thing will be your passport. And you can
Yeah.
travel international with just your phone.
The trouble is self-custody. And I think that's the hurdle. It's why crypto is still scary, is like, what happens when you get your, phone stolen? Did someone just steal your identity? Like there's a lot of problems with it that need to be solved, as far as, having a regular citizen, or, my grandma having to, do self-custody. Like she's not going to do that. That's going to make her head explode against the wall. So like we have to figure out that hurdle before we can actually do it. But the fundamentals are there, and the foundation is being laid out, and this railroad is being built, and we're on that train going down that railroad. And so
the thing is, though, look, self-custody, obviously, even Trump said he believes in self-custody. Kind of crickets from the Democrats, but I'd love to hear their position on crypto. But yeah, self-custody is obviously a big deal. But the other side of it is that if it's on a blockchain, then you kind of don't need everything to be self-custody, because you just need to be able to point to the transaction ID that represents your identity, and at least it's provable in an immutable ledger, right? So the thing is like, things like your identity don't necessarily need to be a self-custody NFT or your birth certificate or your passport or something like that. There is a centralized entity that could sit and use the Avalanche blockchain, or could use the Ethereum blockchain to perform those functions. Even a government can use a blockchain to perform the functions, and it doesn't mean that it's corrupt because it's on an immutable ledger. Like, that's the problem, is people distrust the government because you send in your vote and they say it counted, but like, did it really count? Because like, you didn't really know, other than just getting a confirmation that your vote was
And
counted.
a lot of times those votes don't show up until a couple days after the friggin' election's over, the voting's over. So doing it this way would be instant calculations.
It has to get here. Like, it literally has to get here. It's actually it's just totally ridiculous that it's not. There's something else. Like, you got to wrap some tinfoil around your head to try and figure out why we're not voting on a blockchain right now. Somebody's got a problem with the truth. There's no question about it, because if we didn't have problems with the truth, then we'd be doing it. But, you know,
I don't necessarily agree with that.
The same people on the Republican side that are railing on fair elections are, you know, also lobbying to make it harder to vote and making it, you know, so that certain underprivileged communities can't even, you know, vote because they're making it possible. So,
but I think it's also that, like, who's running our government? These people are fucking old. Like, they're old. I'm, you know, not the youngest person in the world, but like, this shit's complicated to me. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of this stuff. And I've been in this space for fucking 7 years. So it's like, these people that are just figuring out, they maybe have their first like Bitcoin ETF, you know, is the first exposure they have to Bitcoin. Like, those are the guys that are going to be making laws about how to do fucking blockchain voting. Like, this is the problem. We need to get these people out of, there needs to be shorter terms for our government so that young people can come in and actually run this country with some real technology and innovation.
That's a fact.
Thing is that I feel like the younger generation doesn't want to fucking touch this shit with a 10-foot pole. They're just like, hey, I can make my money and move on. Most people, it's, the times are different than back, you know, where like it was noble to be in the government. It was noble to run for office. Now it's like, dude, you're fucking just jumping into the cesspool.
Look,
you know? That's because the cesspool never leaves. Like, it's a cycle of cesspool.
I don't disagree, but it's like,
but if you had shorter terms, if you had people that literally, you got 4 years as a senator, you got, you know, or 8 years, or even 10 years, you know, like 10 years that you get to do it, and you're cycling these people out. Eventually, there's gonna be new blood, and why people don't want to get into that.
Fuck the terms. It should be an age limit. You can't be over 60.
No, it should be a term. It should be a certain amount of time that you spend in that seat. You're an elected official. You are being elected. It's different than being like the, you know, the Supreme Court, which is a whole nother fucking can of worms that should change as well. A lifetime on the Supreme Court is insane. But you're being elected, and you should be able to run and campaign. But eventually, you need to get the fuck out of there, and you need to let new people come in and take those seats. And I think that if you can cycle people out over a decade, then, you know, if you can't be a teacher for that, you know, you're getting your tenure as a teacher, like you should be getting a tenure as a congressman, and get out and let new people. And there are people running. It's just, they're so far low on the totem pole, and the people are just supporting the people at the top that are able to get their special interests done. Like, those are the people that just remain in office, and people, the little people, get disinterested because they're like, why am I competing with this guy who's been in bed with these corrupt corporations forever? They know those guys, they're backing them with
all the money,
hundreds of millions of dollars. Then it's like, I don't even stand a chance. Why would I even try? I'll go be a TikTok star.
You're right. It has to be. I mean, I think it's both. I think it's term limits and age limits for sure. I think it has to be, because to your point, Josh, like, if and same thing, that's why I think the term limits, I actually love what Biden suggested about term limits for 18-year term limits for Supreme Court justices that he just proposed. That's brilliant, because then you have some certainty around when these justices are going to be reelected, and it doesn't make it so that each presidential election is so like random, you know, like all of a sudden some, you know, elected president could reelect the entire Supreme Court, you know, and with a lifetime, you know, situation. I mean, what if there was some like crazy black swan event and somebody, bombed out the State of the Union address and killed off a bunch of justices. What is that president just get to elect all 9 justices? I mean, it's just the whole thing doesn't make any sense
Yeah,
that's
it's
how
insane.
it's set up. So I feel like there has to be. I mean, the problem with that one is that one's actually in the Constitution, and so you're going to have, the conservative right wing that are like hardline, well, they like to interpret the Constitution when it favors them. But for the most part, that one's pretty much like cut and dry.
It was fucking drafted so long ago. It's like
It's crazy. It's just crazy that we're still like, but you know what? The thing is, it's drafted so long ago, but also during simpler times. And so I feel like there's something like pure around that. I think a lot of people agree that there's like a purity around it. But the other side of that is that like the world's changing and we have to be able to
amended the Constitution. I mean, women voting and like all the, I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
There are a lot of things that just are like so antiquated around how humanity operated during that era of time, 300 years ago or whatever,
Yeah.
So I feel like we got to, reevaluate things in context. Easier said than done.
Yeah.
Hopefully some of these things can, we could chip away with them. I love what you just said too, Josh, about, the fact that because there's so many freaking fossils in our legislative branches that, getting into a digital, realm with blockchain it's just speaking a foreign language, just like probably getting a cell phone 20 years ago, 25 years ago was like speaking foreign language. So it is, part of evolution. I think 10 years from now, blockchain will just be so obvious that, it'll be a foregone conclusion. But the next 10 years are going to be, revolutionary. And, the people listening to this podcast are at this incredible inflection point for, both American and world history, where there's opportunity to take action to, innovate. And if you weren't on, in particular, the crypto bandwagon for the last cycle, then you're staring down the barrel of, opportunity here that, you just don't see very often. It'd be like going back to the year 1999 and getting to invest in Amazon stock, even though it was like $1, even though like after Y2K, it like plummeted 80% and everyone was like, Amazon's,
I'll never buy a tech stock ever again.
Yeah. And those are the people that are like absolutely the richest people on the planet. Right. So, that's the opportunity that we have, and it's impossible to see the future, but you just got to look at trends and, make bets. And, doesn't mean that you empty out your entire bank account into it, but definitely getting some exposure at these levels is smart,
Yeah, well, we'll end it on I'm actually launching a crypto 101 webinar. So we'll put the link in the description here. If anybody wants to learn just the basics, this is for the newbies that are scared, that are probably trying to buy their first crypto. I have a lot of friends that have been hitting me up and they're like, hey, I want to get in, but I don't know anything. And so yeah, if anybody wants to jump in, it's totally free. We'll put the link in the description, and you can jump in and just learn the basics, get your feet wet.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Love it.
Dope. All right, y'all. Well, nice chatting. Everybody have a nice night or a nice day or whenever you're listening to this, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace out.
Laters.